Hello, I'm restarting, and the first thing I'm going to do is make it so that spammers cannot spam my chat. Yesterday, I intentionally left my chat wide open because I wanted people to come chat with me, but I do not want to hear people telling me to get viewers. That makes me angry, so I'll figure out how to change that setting. I'll get my tea. So a few days ago, I had it so that you had to be my friend or whatever it is called for 30 minutes before you could chat with me. And then someone from Germany waited a long, long time to talk. And honestly, it worked out well for me because I like to have time to say what's on my mind without interruptions. But anyway, yesterday I decided I wanted to actually talk to people. So I changed my chat settings. I guess this is going to be under channel and videos. So everything is too complicated, and 90% of it is stuff I don't want and will never use. And a wonderful thing that is possible, but not ever done, is to give the user control over what they even see, what they can turn off. I don't want these options. I could learn about them later, but I don't want them. Moderation, yes. Oh, so I could do block terms and phrases and I could have viewers and all that stuff. It's just work. It's just unnecessary work. Block hyperlinks, but what if somebody shares something nice? I'll block hyperlinks. Nobody nice has ever shared a hyperlink yet. If we become friends, you can share a hyperlink. Next. Chat rules. Maybe I could start some chat rules, and that would be okay, followers only. Oh, so any followers, I could have 0 minutes, but then those jerks would just become a follower and then immediately unbecome a follower. Yeah, okay. Now, how can is there a way for me to just ban that person? Resounding valuation. Resoundings. No, resounding devaluation. I'm sorry, this video eventually will be somewhere that isn't streamed. So I'm sure this is not fun. My content isn't content, it's just my life. And I was speculating yesterday that maybe I'm not even attempting to, I mean, I'm not trying to be an influencer. Well, whatever. All these words. I was thinking about the word parasocial relationships, and it's like, I want a genuine social relationship. That doesn't intimidate me. That's great. That's human. I don't think I can learn how to do what I want to do. The options are like as almost as numerous as Facebook's. Hmm. And I don't think I need to tell you how much I hate Facebook. The reason I don't like spam is that it is rude. Um, I don't like rudeness. You know, like when you get a call or a text that's just brazenly a lie and a scam, and you're used to it, but sometimes you're like, I just can't even believe that someone could say that. I don't know. It's naive, I guess. I like to be naive. Not only do I not know what I'm doing, my computer is um, not capable of doing anything fast. So we're just going to walk away, and I will just have to look at that comment that I hate the whole rest of the stream, I guess. Thanks a lot, jerk face. Resounding devaluation. If and when I learn how, you'll be blocked, but true to all spammers, you've got 1,000 accounts and it doesn't matter. I used to answer spam phone calls and just be like, "You're terrible people. You know you're a terrible person." Of course, I sometimes would say that to actual corporations too. Although the little guy who's doing it is not the most terrible. It's whoever's making the most money or oh, blah, blah, blah. Well, that was an unfun excursion. And now I will contemplate reading this story from the September 2nd, 2024 issue of the New Yorker. I will contemplate whether reading it. It's a bicyclist in a fall scene on the front. The fiction for this issue is by Yiyun Li, The Particles of Order, on page 44. And I don't know if I want to. Oh, and it's got maybe I'll start with poems. It has two poems in it. Andrea Cohen, Sugar. Oh, it's longer than I was expecting. Oh, it's on two. Get it? Sugar. What was the name of that bar? Was it really the Sugar Club? Is it still there? Who were we with running in from the cold and wind? And you could still smoke in bars then. You could still go home with 6 cartons of smoke in your hair. We all had hair for days. Then our hands got lost in it, and our faces, and how crowded the bar was, and hot too. And I liked running and being useful. And you and ran back to the blue seems like a typo, but anyway, I liked running and being useful in you, and ran back to the blue Chevy Nova to stash our coats in the trunk and ran back, and Lush Life was playing, and Bowie, and yelling to be heard, and the lights in the bar flashing, because that part of the night was ending. And out we went to the street. It was Hoboken. It was 1983, right before Christmas. And I turned left, and everybody else went in the other direction. And this way, you said. And I said, no, no, I ought to know I'm the one who ran back to the car with all our coats and the key, and who could have guessed what are the odds that it was somebody else's car, our key unlocked, and that blue Nova was long gone to Teaneck or Long Branch or Secaucus. And we looked and looked in the empty dark of our car's trunk. It was like looking for gold at the 7-Eleven, and someone said, "How stupid could you be?" And it wasn't a question. And one of us couldn't stop crying, knowing someone had her yellow coat and maybe her whole life to come. And what are the odds? 40, summers later, here we are on a hilltop in Italy. Well, excuse me. I can't relate. I thought I could relate. Now I can't. Well, it's for the New Yorker readers. 40 summers later, here we are on a hilltop in Italy, and you tell the story, but in this version, it's you and your pals from high school in Maplewood. Joey and Emma and Gabe and what's his name. And as it happens, it happened before I ever knew you, you say. So I was never there. And the name of the place was Sugar Reef on Second Avenue in the city, not in Hoboken. And down there in the dusk of the valley, lights are coming on. And down there in the dusk of the valley, lights are coming on. And above us, swallows and clouds like threads from a jacket unraveling. And from some hidden speaker, Lady Day is singing Sugar. I never maybe my sugar, maybe, as an action item, imagine. And if I never was here, please, please don't tell me. So that upset me just because I can't imagine that in this day and age, me taking a trip to Italy ever again. It just seemed like, why would you put that in? I'll try to reread it without commentary. Also, if it's not clear, there's no punctuation. Well, there's a couple of dashes. I mean, there's probably commas. No, there's quotation marks around lush life, and there's dashes setting off sugar maybe as an action item, imagine. Uh, and other than that, there's no punctuation. And I read it. That's why I read it fast as one run-on sentence. It's kind of exhausting. I'm. You might be able to tell. I'm not really a fan of this poem, am I? But that's okay. I like poets, and I'll give it one more go. Sugar. What was the name of that bar? Was it really the Sugar Club? Is it still there? Who were we with running in from the cold and wind? And you could still smoke in bars then. You could still go home with 6 cartons of smoke in your hair. We all had hair for days. Then our hands got lost in it and our faces. And how crowded the bar was, and hot too. And I liked running and being useful, and you, and ran back to the blue Chevy Nova to stash our coats in the trunk, and ran back, and Lush Life was playing, and Bowie, and yelling to be heard, and the lights in the bar flashing because that part of the night was ending, and out we went to the street. It was Hoboken. It was 1983, right before Christmas, and I turned left, and everybody else went in the other direction. This way, you said. And I said, no, no, I ought to know I'm the one. We ran back to the car with all our coats and the key, and who could have guessed? What are the odds that it was somebody else's car? Our key unlocked, and that blue Nova was long gone to Teaneck or Long Branch or Secaucus, and we looked and looked in the empty dark of our car's trunk. It was like looking for gold at the 7-Eleven, and someone said, how stupid could you be? And it wasn't a question, and one of us couldn't stop crying, knowing someone had her yellow coat, and maybe her whole life to come. And what are the odds? 40 summers later, here we are on a hilltop in Italy, and you tell the story, but in this version, it's you and your pals from high school in Maplewood, Joey and Emma and Gabe, and what's his name? And as it happened before I ever knew you, you say. So I was never there, and the name of that place was Sugar Reef on Second Avenue, in the city, not in Hoboken. And down there in the dusk of the valley, lights are coming on, and above us, swallows and clouds like threads from a jacket unraveling, and from some hidden speaker, Lady Day is singing Sugar, I never maybe my sugar, maybe as an action item. Imagine. And if I don't understand that. Imagine. And if I never was here, please don't tell me. Sorry, I thought I'd make it all the way through, and I still interrupted it because I can't get the syntax. I don't get the reference. It occurred to me that the wind might have been whipping uh, Might have been causing static in the microphone the whole time. I thought of that in the middle of the poem, and I was like, well, I don't want to interrupt and move because I don't want to read this poem a third time. Yeah, I guess I don't like it. For these are the reasons I don't like it. It's very specific. Like it starts out, oh yeah, anyone could have this life. Yes, it's saying specific places, but then I feel I feel like it's too specific. I mean, you don't have to have been alive or gone to the city in 1983 or know, a Chevy Nova or Bowie or Lush Life or Hoboken or Teaneck, Long Branch, the Caucasus, Lady Day. It's just that then it feels like that's all there is to me. Yes, there's the words in between and they're an interesting story and the way it's told. Memory, I just don't like it. I know. So one of the things I think I just said earlier in the stream is I'm definitely trying to get past that whole binary judgment, yes or no. Do I like it? Do I not like it? um, but when you really don't like something, what are you going to do? I'm going to get a cold drink. I think I think I'll get a cold drink and then decide what I think. So what I'm doing with these streams lately, I guess it's like I have an imaginary friend. I'm relating to a friend the way I want to relate to a friend, which is to talk about art and ideas and yeah. In a previous stream, I said, if I can duplicate those kinds of late night talks in a college dorm. Now, there's a specific reference because not everyone has had that, and I have, and that tells something about me and my privilege. But I understand that. And I think, even though in my head, I think about late night talks in college dorms, the last time I was talking about it, I just said late night talks and I left out the college dorms part. Because I've had other late night talks in different settings that were equally rewarding. So if I were writing a poem, I could choose to set it specifically at Princeton University in 1991 or something, or I could choose not to. And those are, I guess, valid choices, whatever. I wonder if what I'm about to say will make sense. This sofa feels too low for me to read in. I don't necessarily want to stand up and orate, but if I'm going to read out loud, I need to be elongated a little bit more than this low sofa. That's okay. There are always other options. But maybe I have it in me to read another poem. I won't read the short story. Poem option number two. Poem never to be read aloud. Oh, how transgressive. And it's all words that I can't say. Poem never to be read aloud by Davy Gibson. No words can tell us how to live, but to live is to reach for them anyway. The thought, on the other hand, the brass nameplate screwed into a closed door. Colorless green ideas sleep furiously. Make trouble, not sense. Some things should never be made into art. The problem is we've been inscribing the violence into lines all along. Banks redlining neighborhoods, city planners interstate slates, the racial covenants etched into deeds. If only what we need to say to one another would land so softly on our tongues we could taste it. If only we had screamed and incinerated the other four precincts while we had the chance. Imbroglio is a beautiful word for trap. The problem isn't only what happened, it's how much remains the same. There are no words, are still words. That one I like a lot better. Come on, let's look at this tugboat going by. On streams, I don't think I can zoom in. I cannot. So you have to zoom in on your own. But there's well, I thought it was a tugboat. Maybe it's a tiny mini barge. Something weird moving up the water. I'm a big fan of the British painter J.M.W. Turner, who painted just so many skies with I'm not a I'm an artist, but I'm not an art student. Maybe chiaroscuro. That's Italian, but isn't that just a bunch of shading? Look, I paint like this, so I don't have to describe it. If you don't know his work, look up J.M.W. Turner. You won't. You might. Just a moment while I readjust the tripod. So when I started doing these, okay, so I have done some videos on YouTube, and they include both ones that I attempted to edit in the sort of YouTube way and ones that I just made a mess of. And at some point, it just occurred to me that what I most wanted was just to be myself. And even if it doesn't please anyone and get viewers, it's pleasing me and it's helping me improve my life, which is the same reason that I do the art that I do and the yoga that I did last night. Right, like imagine if I mean definitely it crossed my mind during yoga that I'm like I'm the worst one in here, you know. So like if I were somehow like beset with worries that like my form and performance is not pleasing others, uh, that's not the purpose of yoga. The purpose of yoga is that I mean it's really beautiful. The purpose of yoga is that it's my practice. It's not like world championship yoga. So because I did that moving around, I just the tripod's all messed up now. Just like I said, you can't be open to change all the time. My mother in her when she redid her house, uh, which is she's not there anymore, but it was down the street from where I am right now. And between the garage and the sorry to put you through this. Hope you don't have nausea. Okay. Oh my God. What have I done wrong? Besides everything, between the garage and the back door entrance, it was not an attached garage. There was a little covered walkway with a light, and so there was a switch in the garage for that light, and there was a switch in the next to the back door for that light. And I remember, should this have been one of the first clues that my mom's mind was going? I remember, I mean, I took it that way. One time, we had walked, we had left the garage, left the car, walked up, gone in, and then she went to turn off the light and she said, "Will you go down and turn it off from the garage side so the switches will be in the right positions?" Because if you if you if you turn on one and then turn off another and then turn on and then turn off, like I was like you're intentionally uh like deprecating this feature of having a light with switches on two ends for the purpose of I don't know, anxiety, the peace of mind of looking at a wall and by the way, the switch inside that she wanted to be in the correct position. Um, the light is visible, so it's not a question of is it on because you can see. So I obviously don't know what that has to do with anything. I'm gonna try this one again because I like it. Poem never to be read aloud. No words can tell us how to live, but to live is to teach. I messed it up already. I can't see very well right here. There was a time where I said that what I was going for was Mr. Rogers for grown-ups. And of course, Mr. Rogers has produced segments and, you know, he's actually teaching things. But at the heart of it, he's just doing things around his house and talking to you. All right, let me get this thing well lit for my old eyes. Oh, I could put on my reading glasses if I can find them. I'll look at the one place I think they are, and if they're not there, then I'll look at the second place where I know they are. I just remembered where they are. You don't know me. Poem Never to be Read Aloud by Dobby Gibson. I'm not used to wearing glasses. These were my mom's. They're probably not the magnification that I need. Take 4. Poem Never to be Read Aloud. No words can tell us how to live, but to live is to reach for them anyway. The thought, on the other hand, the brass nameplate screwed into a closed door. Colorless green ideas sleep furiously. Make trouble, not sense. Some things should never be made into art. The problem is we've been inscribing the violence into lines all along. Banks redlining neighborhoods, city planners interstate slates, the racial covenants etched into deeds. If only what we need to say to one another would land so softly on our tongues we could taste it. If only we had screamed and incinerated the other 4 precincts while we had the chance. Imbroglio is a beautiful word for trap. The problem isn't only what happened, it's how much remains the same. There are no words are still words. Dobby Gibson. So, to address the elephant in the room, I think people usually say imbroglio, and it is an Italian word, and I don't speak Italian. Scusi, grazie, prego, imbroglio. It's probably a io, imbroglio, imbroglio. And so the previous poem I said was so specific that I didn't relate to it. It started out being like, this is a cute story or relatable, and then the sum of it were just so many references and so many specificities that I thought it's not. about me. It's too personal in a weird way. The work I do is highly personal, very personal. And I guess that's true for every artist. So if it's in, if it's, you know, been edited, then that previous poem is relatable to a certain number of people. And it's the New Yorker, so it's like, oh, we're going to have an argument about, clubbing in the 80s in, in New York City and turn it into a poem. I mean, the issues in that, as I said, were like memories and relationships. In this much shorter poem, I find so much more to relate to. And it saves the specificity for the end. And I don't get the reference. If only we had screamed and incinerated the other four precincts while we had the chance. Imbroglio is a beautiful word for trap. The problem isn't only what happened, it's how much remains the same. There are no words are still words. Now, I find that a powerful ending without knowing what it refers to. Um, it's clear there's like a riot against police to have incinerated one of five precincts. The other four didn't get. I mean, that's one way of looking at it. Precinct is usually used to refer to police districts in cities, can be used for other things. Then you get into the Italian. So, is this a translated poem? Is this person from somewhere else? Um, is there a scandal that's known as the something imbroglio? I don't know. Imbroglio is a beautiful word for trap. Uh, so I don't know what imbroglio means, but it always sounds like something you're caught up in. So that's the specificity. But the line right before it about the screaming and incinerating was, if only what we need to say to one another would land so softly on our tongues we could taste it. That is beautiful and universal. And the line after, the two uh, very specific ones that I don't totally get, are the final two lines after are, the problem isn't only what happened, it's how much remains the same. There are no words, are still words. So it ends, that's also extremely universally powerful, I find. And so in this poem, in this case, the fact that it has a specific reference in the middle, it's kind of like, it's kind of like the witness testimony, um, that, the specific details so that we know. So we know it's about something. It's not just words that were dreamed up, you know, for no reason. There is an incident that this person seems to be struggling to get over, and then this poem came from it. I think they have bios of their writers in the beginning of the magazine, so I'll look up Dobby Gibson. Well, they have one for Andrea Cohen, but they don't have one. They don't always do the bio for every writer that appears in in the magazine. I mean, that's what the internet's for. I'll go look up Dobby Gibson. And then I will think about reading the short story depending upon how long it is. 1 page, 2 pages, 2.5. It's more than 2.5. That was 2 2/3. 3. Oh my God. So 3/4 of a page, another 2/3 of a page. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. What's my concern? Didn't I say I was going to stream for like 4 hours? Do I really think I'm boring my 1 or 0 viewers? Dobby Gibson. Dobby Gibson, born 1970, is an American poet. His first book of poetry, Polar, won the 2004 Beatrice Hawley Award and was a finalist for the 2006 Minnesota Book Award. He is also author of Skirmish, It Becomes You, and Little Glass Plane, and then a bunch of publications. He's just, born in Minneapolis, Minnesota. He earned a BA from Connecticut College. He lives in St. Paul, Minnesota. So I did think about Minneapolis and George Floyd while I was reading that. And I wondered if there were 5 precincts in that city. 5 precincts seems like such a small number, but Minneapolis is not New York. Yeah, I did think of George Floyd protests while reading that. And in that case, he is, as I say, he's writing about something specific, but it is not preventing anyone else from getting something out of it. You know what? Instead of reading a lot of articles on Minneapolis, I'll go to the website and then I'll look for the police public safety. Ironic, right? Police public safety. Well, it seems pretty clear that's what it's referring to, even if I don't learn how many precincts state the city of Minnesota has. I mean, the city of Minneapolis has. Hmm. Something is making a repetitive noise. It's very annoying to me. Oh, I can fix that. I could still hear it. Now I can't. Yes, I can. It's so repetitive, it has to be man-made, just some noxious. It could be someone's alarm that they're not picking up. It could be. Oh, it stopped. No, I guess I might as well allow it to pass through because it's annoying me no matter what. So like if I'm looking at every moment of my day in terms of I have to accomplish something, I have to have something to show for it, then this kind of streaming is frustrating. And I think it's frustrating for viewers too. When um when we first went over to when we when Twitter got taken over by that jerk and we some of us went to Mastodon. I can remember one person saying, uh, "Oh, here's the map of police precincts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5." It's a small city, Minneapolis, so the area seems bigger, but the actual city limits are small, and there are 5 precincts. And this poet says, "I should have burned them all down." That's. Oh, and then what was the deal about Imbroglio? I went out on the balcony. I have no idea what the rhythmic noise is that's bedeviling me. I'll read that one more time. But as I say, even if you're not into the specific references, I feel like it would be meaningful to anyone to read. Well, I'm really tempting fate. Poem never to be read aloud again. No words can tell us how to live, but to live is to teach. I keep saying that. Poem never to be read aloud. No words can tell us how to live, but to live is to reach for them anyway. The thought, on the other hand, the brass nameplate screwed into a closed door. Colorless green ideas sleep furiously. Make trouble, not sense. Something should never be made into art. The problem is we've been inscribing the violence into lines all along. Banks redlining neighborhoods, city planners, interstate slates, the racial covenants etched into deeds. If only what we need to say to one another would land so softly on our tongues we could taste it. If only we had screamed and incinerated the other four precincts while we had the chance. Imbroglio is a beautiful word for trap. The problem isn't only what happened, it's how much remains the same. There are no words, are still words. Oh, maybe it's not to be read aloud because it has the word imbroglio in it. For me. So it really pulled me in from the first. No words can tell us how to live, but to live is to reach for them anyway. Um, what I spoke about yesterday was the weight of a blank sheet of paper, um, as shared by a poet. A blank sheet of paper is so heavy with possibilities, and the attempt to put meaning, thoughts into words is difficult. It's why I do this, because it bypasses the words. No words can tell us how to live, but to live is to reach for them anyway. The thought, on the other hand, the brass nameplate screwed into a closed door. So, like, you can't get to where the thoughts are, but you know that that's where they are. Colorless green ideas sleep furiously. Now, I don't know how you can have colorless green, and I don't know how ideas sleep, but that's what it is. How long have I been doing this? Oh, yeah, I've got to add on like around an hour and a half. I look at the screen, I still see the comment from the person from the account, the robot or whatever. That doesn't matter. That's not what I'm on these sites for. See, just, shitty things get me down, but in the world of, I mean, like, that's a lot more shitty than spam, but spam erodes society too. If I'm going to read a story, I want to get really cozy. I might make another cup of tea. But first, I'm going to take a break. Hello. I am treating you as a good friend who is capable of hanging out at my place. You're a house guest, and not to be entertained 24 hours a day. That's unrealistic. That's the way TV works and Instagram and all those busy, busy things that are subtracting human attention. I did what I have in mind when I began for this stream wasn't to read, was just to read the short story. Or, well, what is it that I have in mind? It was to come up with a different way to start my day. Now, I can't do this every time. And yet, also, I don't have anywhere to be specifically. And it's just 9 a.m., 9:10. So, uh, it's not that big of a deal that I've been streaming since 7:30. Uh, the only uh, concern that I started to have is that I haven't eaten. So now I'm going to eat and then read that story. I wish I had something to offer you. It's quiche. It's the end of a quiche. It's pretty crumbly. I have a bunch of eggs, and I'm going. So I think I meant to buy more pie shells at the store yesterday, but I forgot. I'm making a pledge not to speak with my mouth full of food. When I eat about half of this, I'll get up and take some medication and then eat the second half. And That's a shame. I wonder if I do it the other way, if the oops, oh God, what have I done? What have I done? If the lens has the ability to show me and the outside at the same time. We'll see. I won't see because I'm now facing the screen is facing away from me. So, when I make quiche, a lot of times the crust just falls apart when I go to cut it. So this morning I decided to turn that into a benefit because I like the crust part to be toasted in the toaster oven, but the crust gets burnt before the quiche part is warm enough to eat. So I just put the crust that fell off in the toaster oven and the other in the microwave. Ba-ba. I choose to believe that even when I'm sitting in the chair, it's a little bit better in terms of how much of the outside you can see, even when it's focused on me. Hmm. Now I'm thinking it's generally a bad idea to eat before you read. We'll see. I could always put off the short story to another day. And I thought of some other things I can do once the stream ends. Oh, no. I will start the story. And if I do that too much, I'll stop. This is The Particles of Order by Yiyun Li. The guest from America was to arrive in the late afternoon. Ursula, having arranged the welcome platter, waited until she heard a car slowly driving in the driveway, its gravel rinsed all day by the rain, before drizzling some honey in broad strokes on the cheese and the nuts. From the kitchen window she could see the cab driver, Timothy today, place a suitcase next to the door, heavy, as demonstrated by his eloquent grimace. I didn't promise none, I just said hopefully not too many. What's going on here is two friends hanging out. I do this as an antidote to the idea that we can only use mass media in ways that are to impress, basically, to influence, to, I mean, I hesitate about that word. I'd like to influence people to calm down, to appreciate life, to Make room for poetry and reading offline, to love each other, to love. There's the expression is to love your neighbor as yourself. What about to love yourself as your neighbor? Because a lot of us may be nicer to others than to ourselves. I'm really. Sometimes I eat and it just makes me like, wow. Do you get that problem, friend? I'm never going to make it if I don't just commit. Again, from the top, The Particles of Order by Yiyun Li. The guest from America, so it's not set in America, was to arrive in the late afternoon. Ursula, having arranged the welcome platter, waited until she heard a car slowly driving in the driveway. No, that's not what it says. A car slowing down in the driveway. Its gravel rinsed all day by the rain. Oh, we're learning so much. A gravel driveway, a place that rains because it doesn't rain everywhere. No, I'm just getting the idea that maybe it rains a lot. Ah. Oh my God. I want to read this story. I think it's interesting. Hmm. And I just want to restart every time I fuck up. This isn't a book on tape. Uh, Tapes don't exist anymore. Yes, they do. All right, I'll have a rule. If I interrupt, I don't go back to the start of the paragraph. I go back to the start of the sentence that I broke in. No, it's the beginning of the story. The guest from America was to arrive in the late afternoon. Ursula, having arranged the welcome platter, waited until she heard a car slowing down in the driveway, its gravel rinsed all day by the rain, before drizzling some honey in broad strokes on the cheese and the nuts. From the kitchen window she could see the cab driver, Timothy today, place a suitcase next to the door, heavy, as demonstrated by his eloquent grimace. Likely he had entertained his fare with one of his two America-related stories, the cousin who'd done life in Sing Sing, or the great-grand-uncle escaping Alcatraz on a stormy night. Visitors from America were rare, or else Timothy would have invented more credible family legends. The woman, Lillian Pang, smiled tiredly as she got out of the car and thanked Timothy. She was between 45 and 55, Ursula estimated, a time when some people's lives come into order while others fall out of it. But falling out of one could be coming into another, like me. And that's not. It was mid January, not the best season for anyone to holiday in the Devon countryside, particularly alone. A reservation of 2 weeks was long. Guests usually stayed for a few days at most. Ursula had not dwelled too much on this, but she had noticed the facts. And now, assessing the guests through the window, she did not think there were any red flags. People who have taken the trouble to travel seek something they cannot find at home. Ursula's job was to provide the possibility, not the certainty, of success. By the time Timothy drove away, Ursula had cut the pear and arranged the slices in the small bowl, which sat just off the center of the plate. No two guests would see the same composition, but this was a minor achievement, known only to Ursula, a still life that did not last. How much still life is too much still life? Once, when she had told Edmund that the only kind of artworks she would never tire of were still life paintings, he had protested mildly, though before she said anything he had added that she could turn the question back to him. How many murders is too many murders? A prolific writer of murder mysteries, Edmund had been known to say that he had lost track of the body count by mid career. A few times he had recycled the names of minor characters, but Ursula had made sure to change them when she typed up the manuscript. Margot to Margaret, Mrs. Southward to Mrs. Southwood, Julian to Jude. Edmund never seemed to notice the subtle intervention. He had often stated that he did not feel attached to any of his characters, was interested only in their shared fate. Ursula gave Lillian a tour of the house, asking about the flight from New York and expressing satisfaction that Lillian had caught the fastest direct train to Exeter, as Ursula had instructed in their correspondence. Do you live in New York? Ursula asked. Yes, New York, Lillian said. After a pause, she laughed lightly, as though at a private joke between herself and someone not present. Actually, New Jersey. Is that the state next to New York? Lillian nodded. It was pointed out to me that it was a bad habit to keep calling New Jersey New York, she said. By whom? Ursula noticed the passive voice. I've got to stop that, Lillian said. Oh, Ursula said, not asking why. She knew very little about New Jersey. She said so to Lillian. Like, if your mom reads you a bedtime story, you don't complain if she clears her throat. This isn't a production. There's not much to know about it. Oh, now I remember. One of Kierkegaard's brothers died in New Jersey, Ursula said. It was a stroke of luck. She had been reading a biography of Kierkegaard. She was not particularly familiar with his work, but a book she'd been looking for at the library, a biography of George Eliot, was checked out. On the librarian's suggestion, Ursula had taken the Kierkegaard biography, which was by the same author. Really? Where in New Jersey? Ursula shook her head. Wasn't it enough that she had retained one interesting fact about New Jersey? Though, now that she thought about it, what could anyone do with a single fact which, like a point, begins and ends in itself? You needed 2 points to make a line, more if you wanted to make a life. Lillian said it didn't matter. It's too late for me to read Kierkegaard in any case, she said. I'm between 45 and 55. It's too late for me to read Kierkegaard. Now I want to read Kierkegaard. I haven't yet, have I? Unless it was assigned in my philosophy class at school. And if it was, I have no recollection. It wasn't a general philosophy class, it was Introduction to Metaphysics and Epistemology. I don't know what drew me to that. I did not enjoy it very much, although I enjoy other types of philosophy. Or I don't know what I enjoy. Moving on. I enjoy psychology and art. Again, Ursula had a sense that Lillian was talking to someone not present, or else voicing a thought meant for herself. A lone traveler sometimes carried an air of disturbance, but Ursula did not feel the need to fret. She herself was a lone woman. Besides, she did not mind odd people, having lived with, through, odder ones in Edmund's books. The collection of Mr. Thornton's work, Ursula said, could be found in the library next to the solarium. That is, if you want to reread them. Likely you already know them well. Who's Mr. Thornton? How on earth had an Asian woman from that faraway place called New Jersey decided to come to Beechwood Cottage if she'd never even heard of Edmund Thornton? Most guests were avid readers of his work. They came because they wanted to stay for a few days in the place where he had spent his last 40 years. They walked to the beech grove where a hidden body could be conjured up in their vivid yet harmless imaginations. They visited the village, which was 15 minutes away by foot, to catch a glimpse of the context for Edmund Thornton's work, an idyllic setting for the fine art of murdering and the finer art of detecting. And in the cottage they studied a lopsided initial carved on the back of a cabinet door, a half torn pad in a drawer, an unfinished sentence on a sheet dangling from an old typewriter, not realizing that these artifacts were not genuine traces of the author's life, but vestiges left by other visitors. There was no way to stop the minor vandalisms. The house was not a museum, and any marks left by the visitors could only point to more stories. Edmund would have approved a service done by his readers and for his readers. Ursula gave a brief introduction to Edmund Thornton. Okay, I'm going to take a short break. Stories can have breaks. Story time can have breaks. I am getting better at the whatever's going on with my throat. If you have, can you see this? If you have an opinion, is it wrong for me to let this plant get battered around by the wind so much? What happened was a few nights ago, it got swayed one way, and then I flipped it around, and now it's getting swayed the other way. That's my idea of making sure it stays, equally limber. Um, I like the story so far. So I don't know about your mind, because I can never know the contents of another human's mind. But the way mine works sometimes is that I'm putting on some pain relief cream, and that's what I was about to say. The way mine works is, well, you hear. I may not know about your mind, but I hear it enough from everybody on earth that, like you go to do something and then you don't remember what it was. And people seem to take this as a sign of absolute, just imbecility. And maybe it's because it happens to me a lot or often or sometimes, but I don't see it as absolute imbecility. I see it as perfectly natural. Wow, this is great. Do you like it or do you not like it? It's just this is such a perfect spot for you to get the sun that you need in the wintertime, but it's also the spot that opens. No, I'm worried. Okay, 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 okay. Guess what? I mean, I don't think you're gonna break. Let me see, but it might be too rough. What's your safety word? What's it? That's not what it's called, is it? Safe word. Oh, but I wanted it to be in the. I wanted it to be in the shot. Oh yeah, that's what I was getting up to do. To put the oh God, so much confusion. Thoughts happen. They come at you fast. Forgetting exactly what you're going to do is not, I think, a sign of lack of a fertile and active mind, but it's a sign of an active mind, because we've moved on to something else. What are we going to do? We're going to, I tell you what, it's already, okay, first of all, it's better because you're not right next to the window. And then second of all, I'm going to have you lean against me. Does that help? No, I don't want to sit on you. Oh boy. If this table weren't such a problem right now, I used to put you up there and I liked it. But a lot of my, well, there's this, which is a problem. And then the other problem going on right now in my home is that a lot of my, well, well there's several, but the other pertinent one to this moment is that we're sort of in between hurricanes, and so like half of my stuff that would normally be out on the balcony have been moved indoors, and the other half that is currently on the balcony will probably have to be moved indoors again soon. So, uh, but while I'm talking about the ability to remember things, I have found that having anxiety about it and scolding myself for having a bad memory does not help at all, and if anything, makes it way worse than just being chill and going with the flow. And then, as just happened right now, I remembered all the things that I wanted to do during my story break. So remember, Ursula is the house caretaker, and well, I'll catch up in a minute. The break's not over yet. Listen, this is fine. When I was a kid, I think sometimes it took several nights for me to get through a story being read to me. It's also amusing to me that it says I have two viewers. I choose not to believe that. Although it would be lovely if there were two people who have found their way to me who are uh, content with this pace of life. That's what I work to promote. Now, back to our story. So, Lillian is the guest from America, The woman who keeps the house is Ursula. It sounds as though she had, I don't know if she was married to or just worked for, well, Mr. Thornton, so I don't think she was married to him, but she um, retyped his manuscripts and she now runs the home. Ursula gave a. So remember, I won't read all the previous paragraphs, but where we left off, Ursula let Lillian know where she could find Mr. Thornton's work in the library next to the solarium. Lillian was like, "Who's Mr. Thornton?" And then Ursula had this whole long train of thought about how on earth did she end up here. That's the way everybody comes here, is because they know this mystery writer, and they, yeah. Anyway, so Ursula gave a brief introduction to Edmund Thornton. How did you find us? She could not help but ask if you'd never heard of him. Lillian said that a friend's friend had recommended the house when she was looking for a quiet place in the English countryside. There were many quiet places in the countryside, but only one of them had once been occupied by Edmund Thornton. Ursula, however, saw no reason to protest. She led Lillian to the kitchen, where she had left a few eggs, a bottle of milk, and some bread and butter. There were shops in the village, Ursula said, if Lillian wanted to prepare her own food. There were also a couple of gastropubs and a coffee house in case that was easier. Lillian nodded, giving the briefest glance at the welcome platter, noticing nothing about the composition. Before Ursula left, Lillian asked if the house was booked immediately after her stay. Ursula knew that it was not. Early February was not yet prime season, but she said she would check and get back to Lillian. In case Lillian is thinking about extending her stay, Ursula wants to make sure that she isn't annoyed by Lillian first. Okay, speaking of annoyed, I mean, could you imagine if, like, a TV network like NBC or something kept having to interrupt their broadcast and be like, this studio, there's a no. Anyway, my whole thing is that this is not a performance. We're just hanging out. And I want to know what happens to this story. I'm interested in it. Oh, I think my, oh, I hope, I've got my noise canceling on. I hope you're not picking up all that garbage. Should I just stop? I wouldn't listen to a story if there's a leaf blower or weed whacker or whatever going on in the background. How good is this microphone? And if I close the windows, then I'm going to be instantly too hot. These are the things that don't happen to a studio in NBC or wherever. Studios for TV and radio are controlled environments. Yeah, I don't think we're going to make it all the way through the story. So I'll go to the next break, which is just less than 2 columns away. Urs- Ursula had been Mrs. Burnett when, okay, I'm gonna stop. I've got my noise cancelers on maximum, and I still hear the buzzing. So chances are you can hear it too. So we will pick this up another day. As of now, well, I'll summarize it when I pick it up another day. I enjoyed it. Um, one of the reasons that so this started at 7:30. One reason I like to get up early is that there are fewer annoying human noises early. Um, it genuinely upsets me that I can't enjoy the open air breezes because of machinery. And to some extent or another, because there's a big neighborhood, it just goes on all day. And if it's not that, it's like trucks beeping, and it's really sad. I'd love to move somewhere. Well, no. First, I'd love for all that shit to be outlawed, or as my idea has been for a long time, to have them restricted to certain days and certain hours. Make all your noises during this time period. The rest of the time, quiet. It'd be so lovely. But I know I'm one of the few people who's bothered because most Americans never open their homes to the outside. They simply use air conditioning 24/7, 365. Why isn't it 24/7, 52? So this is sort of fun because I'm excited about the story about Ursula and Lillian. I mean, as of now, I'm more interested in the Lillian part because Ursula is the settled one, and Lillian is American, Asian American. I mean, Lillian sounds, and Lillian's like my age. Ursula's probably older. I want to know Lillian's story. So it's fun to have something to look forward to, and all I did was read what, like a page and a half of a short story in the New Yorker. Um, this type of activity is like my childhood when there was no internet. And I would read, and I would read all sorts of different types of materials from textbooks, encyclopedias, like there's nonfiction, there's like flimsy comics type magazines. Yes, I watched a lot of TV, but I also spend a lot of time in places where the TV didn't I didn't have access to TV. Um, and I had a variety of media that and not just media, but just activities that interested me. And nowadays, I feel that I am just online all the time. And for me, and I guess like that's in the news that parents worry about their kids because when I was their age, I had all these adventures and they are just wired. I don't have kids, so fortunately, I don't have to worry about controlling other people's lives. Truthfully, all this stuff about parents worries. Um, I believe the best teaching is done by example, and so I mean, I can think of some of the coolest families I know, and of course, there's plenty of screen time and games and that activity, but because the parents are also interested in hiking and camping and uh, just thinking and learning and engaging with the world, and the kids go along with it, and I see that as positive role models. Um, yeah. So before I would, start passing laws, I would just be better parents. And how would I do that? I would give everyone economic stability. All right, that's about it for today. Just in case, just in case there were any sound problems, I'll just come in here and talk off the mic. I'm reflecting on whether I need to reflect on a stream at the end of it or just end it. I could see why playing games on a stream works so well, because you really are just doing the thing that you like and people can join in. I don't like games. I like the things that I'm sharing. I understand that any audience for what I'm sharing is much smaller. And I'm okay with that. I don't want to find the best viewers on some spam link. I've been mad this whole stream because the first spam comment came, remember, if you've watched, the first spam comment came in the first stream, and I tried to start using the tools to fix it, and then that effed up the camera orientation. So then I stopped the whole stream, started over again. So anyway, I think I'll just go back to 30-minute delay for chat. Well, I'll if I do a stream tomorrow, I'll do it again with 10-minute delay on the whole time, because I'm not sure whether this second spammer got in, or who could be the same as the first spammer, who knows, but I'm not sure whether they got in before I had made the change. So as an experiment, I will do it next time I stream. I'll do the 10-minute delay, most popular, whatever that one is, and then maybe I'll continue reading that story. And today I might do a few little tasks around the house, but you don't need to know that. I've done so much in the last 2 days because I finally got pain relief. And I think that's something worth sharing with others, that you might have had similar experiences. If you suffer, to me, this chronic pain is so similar to my, is it called chronic depression? What's major depressive episodes? I don't know, whatever the diagnostic terms were for, there's a word I can't think of, but I can't think because of the weed whacker. That's okay. What I'm saying is that in moments of relief, in moments of doing it better, it's easy to go overboard, um, because there's a sense of, well, I'd say multiple reasons, but one is that all this like stored up desire to do stuff and finally being able to do it. And then it's possible to be just exhausted all the time until the next crash. And I'm trying not to do that, but it's really hard because even when I'm aware of it, I still think, well, I can fit this one more task in. And there's no limit to the amount of stuff that I need to do, that all people need to do, but especially someone who has been feeling bad for a long time and whose, kitchen looks like this. And I mean, this is just a small, I mean, every room in my home is disordered. So part of the idea behind story time and poetry time is that it does force me to slow down. So I feel like it's burnout protection. And I think that there's a lot of, I think that decision making, feeling, processing, mental processing occurs during downtimes. And that can include, I mean, reading and even reading aloud is a type of downtime as compared to, because I'm choosing it, I'm going at my own pace. But the internet and broadcast TV and stuff, they're not real downtime. It's a different style of thing. It can be escapism, but, well, I shouldn't say what's real and what isn't. Do your own thing. But for me, this really helps me soothe and calm more so than fast-paced media. The reason I sort of rewrote what I said is that I think processing is going on in background all the time. You can be watching whatever and your mind is working on little things. So I'm not going to say that it's not. I will say that when I embrace quiet, that's when decisions and memory and sort of like emotional growth is noticeable to me. So it like rises to consciousness when I leave space for it. And I do think that not leaving space for it is a type of defense strategy, because these things can be difficult, whatever we're facing, whatever we're working on, worried about. And certain things aren't solvable, aren't resolvable. So I think, and then there's, just a whole industry built around reducing our thoughts and increasing our distractions. And it just, it's easy and it seems fun and it seems safe, kind of, to not be too open. When I was super depressed, I didn't want to be open at all because the thoughts that would come in were really terrible. So I had Mystery Science Theater running 24/7, just about. Something running 24/7. And there are times, like a week ago when I did too. 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago.
I hope that anyone watching this, first of all, you have my thanks. And I hope that you have the inner peace that I wish for myself, which is to transcend the sound of buzzing motors and incessant beeping and stupid questions, unwanted inquiries. I know that those things need not touch me unless I let them. But because I'm sensorily open, I'm really susceptible to all the irritation. And I could say, it's a defect in me, but these sounds are obnoxious. Like, it's not just me. They're universally recognized as obnoxious. It's just that most people have them tuned out in one way or another, I think. I probably need a vacation somewhere with birds and few people. Or few motors. You know what, though? That's the thing. Cities aren't noisy. People can be noisy, but in general, people aren't noisy. It's machines that are noisy. Gas cars and trucks and ambulances and... So I had fun hanging out this morning. I will do it again. I never know for sure how long. We'll see. I look forward to the rest of Lillian's story or visit with Ursula in Mr. Thornton's house, right? Edmund Thornton in Devon, which is near Exeter. I know nothing about these places. I'm not really an Anglophile. I'm an Anglophobe. Good night. No. It's fine. I'm half Anglo anyway. So I can say that. Bye, y'all. Have a great week if you can.